Hi guys, it's Vin with Boris Effects, and in this specially requested tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use Corner Pin Studio to quickly and easily pin text to a wall inside of Vegas Pro. Okay, so here we are in Vegas Pro, and I have my original footage of this young woman walking down an alleyway. I wanted to use this footage because not only does it have a nice defined wall for us to attach text to, but she moves in front of it. So we're going to get into some quick masking tips as well to really help us sell this effect. So I've set this up to add my text to the top track, and what I'm going to want to do is apply Corner Pin Studio to that text. But there are a couple of workflow specific issues that we need to look at first. The very first has to do with how Vegas Pro handles working with multiple layers, and the second is how Mocha Pixel Chooser deals with masking. Because of how Vegas handles background and foreground layers, I'm not going to want to apply the traditional video effects version of Corner Pin Studio. If I do this, I'm not going to get access to the composite layers I need, so what I want to do is make sure that I've selected Custom Composite on my V1 layer and add Corner Pin Studio there. This will allow me to access both the A and B sources. The second workflow consideration has to do with masking issues. It's all well and good to motion track my text to the wall, but if we don't mask it out as she passes in front of it, the illusion is going to be broken. By default, Corner Pin Studio wants to composite the text as a foreground layer. This makes logical sense. We have our background and we want to add something on top of that. But if we want to take advantage of Mocha's powerful masking in addition to its tracking abilities, we want to switch things around a bit. What I'm going to do is apply Corner Pin Studio to my V1 track, and the first step that I want to take is I'm going to change the workflow to apply to background. Then I'm going to swap my video and text, placing my video on V1 and my text on V2. I'll then select Source B as my foreground insert layer. This is going to tell Corner Pin Studio that my foreground is the text, but we're going to focus all of our compositing features on the background, which is the video clip or source A. With the correct workflow selected, I'm going to go to my Mocha motion tracker and launch the custom UI. Inside of Mocha, I have my two tracker elements, my search area and my corner pin guide. This box represents each of the 4 points of my corner pin. Now your first thought may be to keep the search area and the corner pin connected. After all, we want the corner pin to match the movement of our motion tracker. But here's the thing. Mocha is a planar tracker, so it's tracking all of the pixels within our search area. This is going to become an issue if we want our text on the wall, because as soon as she passes in front of it, Mocha might lose that track. So what do we do? Well, as I said, Mocha is a planar tracker, which means that as long as we track something along the same plane as our corner pin, we'll get the results that we want. And as luck would have it, there's a window up here, along the same plane as the wall I want to apply my text to. So what I'll do is I'll set my search area to track the movement of this window. My corner pin, I'm going to place up against this wall. Now I can turn the grid on to make sure that it lines up nicely and easily, making any tweaks that I need. When done, I'll hit track, and there you go. Now you'll notice that Mocha is showing a longer timeline than the actual clip. This is because Vegas Pro requires us to composite the effect on the whole track. Simply stop the tracking when the clip ends. Don't worry if the tracking messes up at the very end, it's after the clip ends, so we're never going to see that. When satisfied, hit apply, and our text has been tracked to the wall. If I want, I can open up my transform controls to make adjustments to the scale and to translation. It's a lot easier to fine-tune the position this way because regardless of any changes that I make, it's always going to maintain our motion tracking. So when satisfied, I'll play that back, and that's really looking pretty great. What we want to do now is mask out the text as she walks in front of it. Now to do this, I'm going to go down to Mocha Pixel Chooser. Make special note that this is not Mocha Motion Tracker that we just used. In fact, I'm just going to close that group since we're done with that. Mocha Pixel Chooser will use the same power of Mocha tracking, but allow me to mask out part of the effect. Now how detailed you want to get will naturally depend on the effect that you want to achieve. You can go in and create rotomasks for her arms, head, body, and track them all individually. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to create a quick garbage mask that more or less follows our woman. To do this, I'm going to select my brush tool and quickly draw a shape that matches her body. When done, I'll click the arrow and create my mask. Next, I'll track forward, keeping an eye on the movement of her arms and pausing every so often to adjust the mask. While Mocha will not display the composited text, I do know that it's in this area. So I'm just going to make sure that anytime she's positioned here, I keep that mask as tight to her as I can. I'll pause the track, select some points, and manually adjust. And I'll continue to do that until she's past the sign. When satisfied, I'll hit apply and my text has disappeared. Why did this happen? Well, we just told Mocha that the effect is in this area. What I need to do is click Invert Mask here in the Pixel Chooser Mask group, and that will invert the effect, masking out the text only when she is in front of it. And if I need to make any adjustments, I can always jump back into Mocha and tweak that mask. But essentially, that's pretty much it. All that's left is to make a few tweaks and really sell the effect. And the great thing is that Corner Pin Studio makes it easy to do that, all within the effect itself. First, I'm going to come down and feather my Mocha mask, and I'm talking ever so slightly, maybe like a pixel or two. Any more and you'll draw attention to the masking and the effect will look really weird. Next, let's enable Light Wrap. This is going to reflect the luma from the background layer onto our foreground layer. Just nudge that up a bit to soften the edges of the text, making it look like it's part of the scene. Once again, don't do too much or it's going to look too feathered. Lastly, these titles really stick out to me like a sore thumb. I want to make them look like they're part of the wall. To do that, I'm going to open up the composite group and just simply change the apply mode to overlay. When I play that back, we have quickly and easily added text to a wall within our scene. And while I did this with text, you can absolutely use a still image or other object using the exact same steps. And since these are titles, I can always enable drop shadow if I want them to pop off that surface. But as far as creating this effect inside of Vegas Pro, that's all there is to it. I'm Vin Morreale with Boris Effects, and for more great tutorials, don't forget to check out the Boris Effects website. Take care.